The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the speaker and don't necessarily represent those of the station, its staff, management, or ownership.
Well, thanks for tuning in to Clearview, Hudson Valley, early on a Sunday morning on your local iHeart radio station. Hey, it's Uncle Mike, and joining me in the studio is a hero, and he doesn't like to hear that, but he is. He served his country proudly in the United States Air Force Security Forces. He was in Afghanistan, and he continues to serve by helping his fellow veterans with the Dutchess County Vet2Vet program. Joining me in the studio this morning is Anthony Kavouras. Good morning, Anthony.
Good morning.
Thanks for coming out on a Sunday morning.
It's my pleasure.
Anthony, we're going to talk about the Vet2Vet program, among other things, but the Vet2Vet they have a fundraiser coming up we'll talk about later, but the work that they've been doing and continue to do, and unfortunately the fact that they need some funding, which I'll talk about later. But before we get started, Anthony, could you just give a little background on yourself, how you got to where you are now?
Sure. I was a lifer. I did 34 plus years in the Air Force as a security forces, and after I was done, I wanted a change, something different. Transition was a little tough when I first got out. I didn't know what I was going to do. I realized that it was hard to get information on benefits and everything else and how you set everything up. So I started working on that and went back to school. And while I was doing that, I realized, hey, I'm pretty good at maneuvering this system, which was very complicated. And I started helping other veterans that were asking me questions about it, and kind of just got into that business of helping other veterans. And I liked it, and I said, this is what I'm going to do now. I'm going to just help my brothers and sisters that are coming out, and been doing it ever since. So that was July 2014 I got out, and I've been doing it since then.
Initially, now you worked for Hudson River Housing, right? Is that the first organization?
I did. I got an internship there, and I started working full time for them. And it was a great program. It was through the VA granted fund called SSVF, which stands for Supportive Services for Veterans Families. And we did a lot to house the homeless veterans in Dutchess County, and or the veterans that were about to become homeless and their families. And unfortunately, they lost that grant. The grant was cut. The VA was trying to consolidate areas. So it left a gap in the county for that service. And consequently, the county stepped in and gave a smaller version of that grant, about a fifth of it, but it was enough to do something. And Mental Health America picked it up. They got that grant and hired me, and I'm still doing what I was doing before. So
now, interestingly, during that time, you and 4 other veterans formed the Hudson Valley Veterans Alliance, which I proudly am part of. I serve on the advisory board, yes. An organization we've been trying to grow, and we're continuing to grow.
Absolutely.
Another facet of what you were doing. I mean, you took that on while you were still with Hudson River Housing.
Right.
Anthony, talk a little bit. Now, you went through it yourself. A soldier coming back to civilian life, no matter where he served, I'm going to say that being deployed and being in combat has a different facet to it, but no matter where they served, their life was changed for however many years they were in the service, whether it's a 2, a 4, 8, or a 10-year hitch or a lifetime like you spent. To come back to civilian life, there's a lot of changes someone faces when they come back.
That's true. So every military person's experience is unique to them, right? So they all have unique challenges and unique things, but they are also all connected. They all have some of the same shared experiences, regardless of what they did in the service. They all enlisted, or they all became an officer, or they all went into the service and volunteered. We don't have the draft anymore, so everybody I know. Early on, I did know people that were drafted, but I'm just telling my age now. But pretty much now it's all people who volunteered, and we all served in one way or another. And coming out, there's a variety of problems that they all face. So one of the things is most people go into the service quite young. So when they go in, all of a sudden they have a lot of mentors all around them, showing them what to do, teaching them what to do, showing them a way of life. They become quite used to that way of life very quickly. Things are given to them so that they can conduct their missions without any other, obstacles in their way. So all of a sudden you find yourself, don't have those mentors all around you. You don't have uniforms in your closet, You do, but you can't wear them just to go out, You have to do everything for yourself now. Not that, we needed people to do things for us before. It's just different. It's little things you didn't really have to worry about. People are coming into civilian life now. It's a different economy. It is getting better, but it's rough. Rents are high. Gas is high. All the bills are high. All of a sudden they're like, wow, I need to make this amount of money, to live comfortably. And it's tough. And so they start asking around, hey, what can I do now? How does my military experience translate to civilian life? So that's one thing that they have to now adjust to. They have to take their military experience and transfer that into civilian experience so that they can get a decent job. It's very tough. Some of the older veterans had different problems coming out. A lot of the Vietnam veterans came out. They weren't treated very nicely when they got out. They were ostracized, and they kind of almost hid their service from people for a long time. I'm glad that's changing a little bit, and now we look at Vietnam veterans as real heroes like they should be. But originally, they were not treated that way. Same thing with Korean vets. They were kind of like forgotten altogether. And those veterans had a lot of issues that they had to overcome, the stigmas and stuff that they had to overcome. I think you're going to see a lot of the newer veterans coming out now that are going to have some similar issues to those guys after a while, because they've gone on many of the new veterans have gone on multiple deployments. They've seen a lot of things. There are young people going out there, seeing things they probably should have never seen, doing things. And now they have to forget all that and concentrate on a whole new lifestyle and take care of their families now and get back to the business of living again,
I never had the honor of serving, so I can't imagine at all. And I'm not going to sit here and try to pretend I can even imagine what it was like, especially combat. But my understanding, and I talk to a lot of soldiers and a lot of veterans, boot camp especially, boot camp is designed to make you part of a unit. You want to be part of a team. You don't want to be there's no I in team is really what boot camp is all about. Right. So that's ingrained in you, and that is forced on you where you do become part of a unit or you don't survive.
Right. The brotherhood.
So when they come back to civilian life, that brotherhood, while there is a skeletal support of veterans there, that brotherhood and that unit is gone. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they're really by themselves. And a lot of veterans are able to handle this. A lot of veterans are able to move on, but there's quite a few that can't. And that's where Vet2Vet comes in, because to those that can't, and we're going to talk about PTS in a little bit too, but before we even get to that layer of adding to the issues, those that can't, the organizations like Vet2Vet, like our Alliance and other organizations have to be there. We can't go without that because the VA is not dealing with this emotional side of it and the financial and the support side of it. It's just not there. So working for Vet2Vet, you're a peer mentor, really, is what you are. And before you explain what you guys do, I can tell you that in all the discussions I have, that a veteran will talk to another veteran 100 times before he'll talk to anyone else. I don't care who the specialist is, who the psychologist is, who it is at the VA. They're not going to open up to him. But with a veteran like yourself who's been through it, and the other two gentlemen that work with you, Adam Roach and Andrew Dyer, are Marine veterans who've been through it. A veteran, explain a little bit how that works as a peer mentor, where the veteran really is probably going to open up to you before anyone else.
Sure. So I noticed when I got out that a lot of the information I was getting, like I said, was from other veterans, right? And veterans will share their knowledge with other veterans once they come out. And it's true. There's a brotherhood, sisterhood that you get when you're in the military, and you miss that. You want to be part of a team, and you don't feel that everybody around you is part of that team when you come out, and you're surrounded by people who have not had those shared experiences. And like I said, it doesn't matter if you were in combat or if you deployed or if you ever went outside the wire or not. Just being in the military gives you a little bit more credibility with another veteran because they understand, they went through boot camp or basic.
Which makes total sense.
Right. So they'll open up to you where they won't open up to other people. The Vet2Vet program was really started because of the PFC Dwyer, who lost his battle with depression after he came back. He brought the war back with him, and he started self-medicating and doing a lot of things, and it led to him committing suicide and taking his own life. So they started this program so that people could have someone to talk to, so that they wouldn't feel so alone and that they weren't, they didn't have a team anymore behind them. So Vet2Vet has been very successful. Every single person who has joined the Vet2Vet program, that we have not had one loss of life from any of the people who've come into the program. So that's saying a lot.
That's amazing. Yeah, it really is amazing because, the number they throw out there is 22 a day are committing suicide. It's a lot higher than that. That's what's being reported. 22
a day does not take into account the ones that are not reported as suicide. So, yeah, it is a lot higher.
And that shouldn't happen. The point you just made, and we'll talk a little bit about PTS in a minute, but the point you just made is when soldiers come back, especially from combat, they do bring the war back with them. They saw things they shouldn't have seen that they can't get out of their heads. And that alone is enough to deal with. And unfortunately, one of the things that we need to really work on is the stigma. PTS is a disease. It's a serious disease. And those who are suffering from it need our help. But unfortunately, in this society, a lot of times they don't get any help. They're almost looked at as crazy people, lack of a better word. They really are. And they're not. They're suffering from a disease like any other, like diabetes or high blood pressure that needs to be treated.
Yeah. So I'd like to make the point, too, that not every veteran who's suffering from PTSD or depression or survivor's guilt or any of the other mental problems have been deployed or have seen combat. Sometimes it's just the fact that you were in such a tight-knit group and then all of a sudden that's stripped away from you and you have nothing now. All of a sudden you're starting from scratch and you really are. You're basically starting from scratch. If you did 5 or 6 years and you come out, you don't have a retirement. You don't have a lot of other things. You do have the GI Bill and some other educational benefits and stuff, but you have to access that. You have to know who to call and how to access it and where to go. And there's not, like I said, you don't have a first sergeant anymore. You don't have if you were an airman, you don't have a staff sergeant telling you this is what you should do.
And that's the point we're making, why Vet2Vet is so necessary, because that is part of what you guys do. You help the veterans through this process who may not, at some point, a lot of them probably just give up because they can't figure it out, and that's even worse.
And we hear people saying, I'm so frustrated and no one's listening to me and that kind of thing. And they call us and immediately you could tell that They thank us, but before the end of the first phone call, sometimes they're thanking us, saying, "Hey, you're the first guys that gave me hope," or now I know I'm going to be taken care of and stuff like that. And that's what it's all about. We're not there. We don't do clinical stuff. What we do is we're just there. We're there for the veteran, and the veteran knows that we're another veteran
on their side,
and that they have a team. They have people they can go to just to vent or just to share a burger with or a cup of coffee with, and that's what we're there for.
I'm speaking with Anthony Kavouras, a Master Sergeant in the United States Air Force, part of security forces for over 24 years. He's a board of director of the Hudson Valley Veterans Alliance, and he is now working with the Vet2Vet program, Dutchess Vet2Vet. That's what we're talking about today. And he gave a little bit of his background, and we talked about some of the things Vet2Vet does. And the point we're making, and we're going to continue to make, is when a soldier comes back from service into civilian life, it's difficult, no matter what he faced during his military career, to be integrated back. And one of the things that's interesting, Anthony, is that a lot of times they come back, and not even a lot of times when they come back, but when they do come back, and I went through it with my brother and a lot of people that I know, they're not the same person as when they left. And you made the point, a lot of them were very young when they left, so they hadn't even really dealt with things on their own before they left. A lot of them went out of high school, never being on their own, and went into the service, like you. So now all of a sudden, not only is it something you'd never dealt with before, and then you add on top of it the fact that your support around you that you had for the last whatever many years you were in has been stripped away from you, and sometimes your family doesn't know how to deal with you.
No, and you don't know how to deal with your family either. So you have to get retrained on, like, for instance, I went away. When I came back, my wife had to take care of everything while I was gone. So I come back, I don't want to all of a sudden start taking care of things that she's been taking care of. It's a game, it's a dance that you have to do, and it's difficult. And some people
can't deal with it,
or have a difficult time dealing with it. And until they talk to someone, And veterans, a lot of times do not want to go to see somebody. They don't want to see a mental health professional. So,
well, I mean, that's part of your training, really. I mean, you're trained to trust your brotherhood, you're not trained, and anybody else, regardless, even if it's your family, I don't want to say are viewed as the enemy, but they're viewed as outsiders, and you're just not, it's just not in your nature to trust them. It's not like you're doing it maliciously. It's part of what you've been trained.
Yeah, yes and no. Everybody, it's different for everybody. Luckily I had a rock at home, so I came home and she was there for me. But even there's times where I'll have to sit down and I talk to my wife, for instance, and she asks me questions about what happened, and I tell her, and here it is, like it's so many years later, and I'm still giving her little bits and pieces of stuff that I didn't tell her before, So it's just the way it is. It's pretty natural, and it's the same for everybody. And another thing that a lot of people don't realize is the adrenaline rush that you have when you're in the military, right? So you go into the military, even just going to training, you have this big surge of adrenaline every time. And adrenaline is great for the body, right? Makes your senses heightened and all that. But when you have extended periods of time of adrenaline does the same effect to your body that heroin does, right? So your body gets used to adrenaline. It gets addicted to it. Mm-hmm. That's why people come back from a deployment or 2 deployments and they say, oh, how was it? Well, it was terrible. This happened and that happened. It was really bad. I think I'll probably go back another year. I can't wait to go back. And so they don't quite understand. They didn't really like what happened, but they still want to go back. They need to go back because their body's still craving that adrenaline rush,
That's a side I had never heard before. That's interesting.
And they look for other ways to fill that adrenaline gap. And you're always going to be addicted to that adrenaline because when you are out there, I tell you can sense things and you can hear things and all that. It's hard to get that adrenaline rush back into your body, so they sometimes do dangerous things to make up for it. You'll hear people like all of a sudden skydiving a lot, for the first time, or scuba diving, or bungee jumping, which is like ugh.
And that's kind of a sign, really, that they need to understand why they're doing that before they can stop doing it. Really, just really quick, a point you touched on before. I want to touch on it. To all the families out there who have loved ones who have served, thank you for your service, because you do serve right alongside that soldier. The point you just made, while that soldier is gone, you're taking care of everything on the home front. Not only that, you're waiting for that knock at the door that he's not coming back. It's an awful amount of stress on the family, and we thank them for their service as well, because our soldiers couldn't do what they do if they didn't have the support of their families. Anthony, so one of the points I want to make is, and I'd like you, if you can, give a couple examples of cases you've dealt with. Obviously, we're not going to get name specific or anything, but situations that you've dealt with that people may not realize soldiers have to deal with when they come back home.
Okay, sure. So one of the big things is, of course, jobs, right? So a lot of the people come back and they try to find a job, and they're successful. They'll look in the paper and they'll go to one stop where they'll get a job, but they immediately find out that job is not adequate to sustain their lifestyle. So now they have to change their lifestyle. They have to take a step down, maybe 2 or 3 steps down. And they start immediately saying, okay, what can I do to improve this? And it's hard. Like, they don't realize just how hard it is, like getting a, $30,000 a year job is probably okay. It's probably pretty easy. But if you have a wife and a child, a $30,000 job is not going to cut it. So you need a $60,000 or a $75,000 a year job, which is a lot more difficult to attain. That's one of the things that you'll hear them talk about a lot. Transportation. They might not have had, or, they had a car and they lost it. Maybe they couldn't pay their insurance or their car payments and they lost it by this time. We don't always get them right after they come out. Sometimes they've already gone downhill before they come to us. We'll often get a vet that has no job, no car, and is about 2 or 3 months behind in rent. He's about to become homeless. He's got all kinds of problems. He might have already gone back to school to make a little extra money with the GI Bill, but he's not doing good in school. And so he's got that extra stress on him now. He doesn't want to fail because then they'll take that money back, so then that'll be even worse for him, So
you're adding stress upon stress upon stress, and he may already be dealing with PTS or with survivor syndrome, like you said, any one of those problems,
sure,
which is going on already, and now you're adding the stress of all this on top of it, which makes that situation worse. But the point I want to make is the Vet2Vet program, you've been successful, and you've been helping a lot of veterans. Like you said, you haven't had anybody come to you that you've lost through suicide, which is a major accomplishment. But you've been able to help a lot of veterans, and because I do a lot with you guys, and I know what you're doing, we gave away a couple cars not long ago, and we've been able to help several, and we want to continue to help them. Unfortunately, the funding for Vet2Vet through the grant they had is in jeopardy, and they may or may not get it again for next year, and we can't let this program go. So we're initiating a fundraising program. There's a fundraiser coming up on March 2nd at the DC Indoor Golf, which I'm going to give you a little detail on. They're looking for players, and it's indoor, so it's not like you're going to be out in the elements, but they're also looking for sponsors. And I'll give you that information in a minute, but the point I want to make, how necessary Vet2Vet is. You've had a lot of success, and you're busier now than you've ever been. I know you tell me your phones are ringing off the hook. Veterans are starting to realize you guys can really help them, and you're getting a lot of phone calls, and you want to be able to help everybody, but to do that, you've got to have the funding.
People from the VA actually will give us a call because they know that we help in ways that sometimes they cannot. Yes, we get a lot of calls. It's the same like the HVVA guys, constant. The problem with grants, of course, is they can always be taken away. Like what happened with the SSVF grant that Hudson River Housing had. It just was taken, it was stripped away like all of a sudden within a very short period of time. We were told, hey, it's gone. I just don't even want to think about what would happen if we lost the Vet2Vet program, especially in Dutchess County, where we've touched, I don't know, I wish Adam was here, but who's the director of that, but I think he said something over 1,500 people this last year that they've touched.
One of the new initiatives that you've taken on, we want to talk about quickly, is the HERO program. But before I do that, the website is MHADutchess.org, MHADutchess.org. If you go to that website, everything we're talking about is on there. And the ability to donate to this program is on there as well, along with an ongoing monthly donation, which is really what they're looking for. They need partners and, to continue. I don't think they have set a number yet, but they're going to set a number at probably $5 or $7 a month where you can put it on your credit card. But if you go to MHADutchess.org, please check that out. They're going to need help with funding, and we can't let this program go. Tony, if you would quickly, Anthony, I'm sorry, if you would quickly touch on the HERO program a little bit.
Sure. So the HERO program actually started, and HERO stands for Housing, Empowerment, Reassurance, and Occupation. And it's Mental Health America, again, picked up the grant, and a great organization to work for right now. They have started this in conjunction with the Vet2Vet program. So it's basically what it says. It's housing. We basically try to keep homeless vets, we try to house homeless vets or keep other vets from becoming homeless that could be in danger of it. It's a small grant, so we have to depend on other agencies to fill in the gaps. It's just not even close to enough money, but it does help. We've been putting people in hotels, for instance, until the other agencies can
find a place for them to stay.
Find a place or, pay their arrears and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. We also have paid some arrears and, because other agencies have a lot of rules, and a lot of times it's an individual who may be just a hair over the income gap, and, the income gap is so low. So the income cap, is so low that we'll have to step in and use our funds. Of course, we can only do that a few times because the grant is small. Working on trying to increase that grant, but I don't know how.
And this fundraising that we're talking about would help that.
Absolutely.
And again, with the fundraising, anything that you donate to the Vet2Vet program goes directly to helping veterans. That's where the money's going.
Local veterans too.
Only local veterans. This is the Dutchess County chapter we're talking about.
Right. We're not national, so it's not going to be, going to someplace 5 states down. It's all local.
If you're a veteran an honorably discharged veteran who needs help, no matter what your situation is, and no matter what you think your situation is, if as bad or as maybe as not as serious as it is, call the Vet2Vet program. Their phone number 473-2500 and 1306, 1307, or 1364, I think are the three extensions. Again, 845-473-2500. Extensions 1306, 1307, or 1364, and you will get Adam, Andrew, or Anthony. And they will talk to you and assess your situation. And if they can help you, they will immediately help you. If they can't help you immediately, they know where to go to get you help. And there you go. There's somebody calling us right now. They're facing more and more phone calls and more veterans. So please, if you can help out with the golf event coming up on March 2nd, again, that's DC Indoor Golf, or you can help them by donating. Go to MHADutchess.org, MHADutchess.org. Check out all the programs on there and check out the fundraising opportunities, a one-time donation, a monthly donation, whatever you can do to help them, because they're going to need funding. We're pretty sure, we're still hopeful that the state is going to come through and the county is going to come through, and they're going to get some money from that, we hope, but it's not going to be enough to do what they need to do, and we can't let this program go.
Yeah, sorry about that. I thought I put that on.
That's okay. Well, that might be somebody that really needs you. So
it probably is. So the Hero program, we're hoping. So we're doing the best we can with what we have, and hopefully we'll continue. But the point I want to make too is that the grant that the other agency had that ended, that was towards the middle of last year. Mm-hmm. I started this program in the first week of November. And in that short period of time, the increase in homeless vets and vets that were facing homelessness really went on the rise because of that gap. So I know a lot of times with these grant-funded programs, people think, well, okay, you've done great. Now you've just solved the problem. But the problem continues, and when you have these gaps in funding, this is what happens. The need goes up right away. And now we're playing catch up to try to bring it back down to the level we had it before. So
there are soldiers coming home every day from deployment. Every day of the week, there's a soldier that's being returned back here to the Hudson Valley, that's returning back here to the Hudson Valley. And we're making the point, some of them can handle it on their own, but a lot of them unfortunately can't. And without a program like Vet2Vet, they really don't have anywhere to go. The Hudson Valley Veterans Alliance, we try to fill the gaps, but we don't have a lot of money either. So if you can, please, MHADutchess.org. If you can, please go to MHADutchess.org. Check out all the programs there. You want to click on Vet2Vet and check out all their programs. And if you can, donate whenever you can. $1, $10, $100, or a monthly donation, whatever you can do to help. If we get everybody behind this program will continue. Anthony, unfortunately, it's the fastest 30 minutes in radio. We'll have you and Adam will come back. We'll talk more about this. But anything you want to, just on the way out here, anything you want to add? If you can afford it, support your local vet agencies, because we do a lot. You mentioned the HVVA, and of course there's the Committee for War Veterans. We work all hand in hand because we have to. We all have a very small amount of money, so we kind of support each other, but support your local, especially, this program really needs it. We're kind of like leading the fight. So the Vet2Vet program is the lead in services for this. And a lot of times, if there's someone that, as I made the point before, if they can help you, they'll help you immediately. If they can't, they know where to go. They can, a lot of times, because of regulations, there's certain things they can't do, but the Hudson Valley Veterans Alliance can. Right. Our alliance is five combat veterans, or 5 veterans that are the board of directors. And if it's a 3-2 vote, we help the person. there's not a lot of regulations involved there. And a lot of other committees are the same way.
The Committee for War Veterans is the same way. They take a vote, and I'm in constant contact with them too.
So the Vet2Vet program, so MHADutchess.org, click on Vet2Vet. There's a lot of programs there that they're involved in you'll see there's an immense amount of programs that they have that they're working with. Things that we didn't even get a chance to touch on, like training police officers and things of that nature, which are very important.
The new dog
program. So, Anthony, I appreciate you spending some time with me here on a Sunday morning. Definitely, we're going to come back and talk more about this. Adam will probably join us. But thanks for all you do. Thanks for your service, and thanks for all you're doing. Continue to do. And please, MHADutchess.org. Check it out. Go to the Vet2Vet program when you click on that and try to donate whatever you can. Anthony, thanks for coming by, and we'll talk to you soon.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks, Mike.
All right, buddy. Thanks for listening to Clearview, Hudson Valley on your favorite local iHeart radio station. I'm Uncle Mike. If I don't see you out and about, maybe, just maybe, I'll catch you on the radio. Have a great week, everyone.